use me as a vessel as I share your word to your people, to the glory of your name. For we pray, believing and trusting in the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. You're welcome. For the sake of those who are visiting us at St. Matthew's Cathedral for the first time, I am your brother in Christ, Peter, and this morning I am sick. We thank God, and especially I thank God for the Provost for giving me this chance to share with you the Word of God today. Being the Sunday after Ascension, the topic is the Great Commission. I was battling with myself between the two texts, the Mark's Gospel and our first reading in the book of Acts. Which of the two I should use for this topic? The Great Commission, where God instructs his disciples to go into the world and preach the good news to all creation. And the Spirit led me to Acts chapter 16 after a long engagement with God. So Acts chapter 16 comes after a backdrop of Paul's missionary journey to different communities and nations. And so first missionary journey of Paul can be read in Acts chapter 13 from verse 1 to Acts chapter 14 verse 28. Then you can pick and trace the footsteps of Paul in his missionary journey and the events that did unfold. Then Paul's second missionary journey, you can also read from chapter 15, beginning to read from verse 36 to chapter 18, 22. Then you can equally trace the second missionary journey of Paul to different places and different communities. Paul's third missionary journey, you can also read in Acts chapter 18, verse 21 through to Acts chapter 21, verse 16. And the final Paul's missionary journey to Rome, you can read Acts chapter 21, verse 17 through to Acts 28, verse 31. I'm doing this so that we may be in the same page in understanding the Christian community of believers and how Paul used everything that is within his reach to take the good news to the people who needed to hear this message. And then what can we do in this era of disengagement to reach out to people with this gospel? Friends, whereas Jesus Christ was God incarnate and his church was called to an incarnational lifestyle of which people who believed in him should live a Christ-like life as a way of preaching the gospel, today we find ourselves drifting towards excarnation, the deflation of our faith. And in many ways, we have escalated, and today the body of Christ is no longer one unit because of what the society and the world has given us. The deflation of faith is a serious thing that is against discipleship and a movement of Christians. We have been moving through a disembodying process that has left us feeling rootless, disengaged, connected to the world we must accept in so many ways we are disengaged in a big way. Today when you walk along the streets of Eldoret and any other place, you will find most people with these things on their head. Even in lecture halls, they have them. You may think that lectures are streaming through the internet, but they are live instead. When driving, you can knock somebody walking along the way because they don't even hear you coming, because they are disengaged from what they are doing. Children have disengaged from their parents. Parents have disengaged from their children. Husbands have disengaged from their wives. And wives have disengaged from their husbands. And the society is suffering from this engagement. And even the church today is suffering from this engagement. You may be in the church preaching, and you think that people are following into your sermon, but they've stood below the pews, and they're in a different world from where you are. They are waiting for the song for offerings, so that they give their offerings and they go. They are disengaged. And that has left the Christian body rootless, disengaged, and then connected to the world. As I was reading Acts, I met this character, Lydia. And Lydia, in her approach towards the Great Commission to preach the gospel, she was very, very strategic. Allow me to say, without quoting anywhere, that statistics and findings have proved that Anglicans don't do so well in crusades. You can challenge my assertion. Neither do we do well in lunch hour fellowships. And if at all we were to invite people for a crusade, Provost will find a very small group of cathedral members attending. And even finding somebody to preach in that cathedral will be very difficult. Until Provost may source for another preacher from a different church to come and do that. But the same finding also have proved that Anglican have got a strength in one-on-one discipleship or cell group fellowships. And that is how we can reach the world and the society, because in those fellowships we are able to tell them what we believe in. And therefore today I want to borrow from Lydia's intentions to encourage us to work hard so that we may be found in either of the fellowships that we have. Cell groups are important for Christian growth. Cell groups are important for the growth of a church. Cell groups have been given names depending from whichever way you are coming from. But cell groups are places to partner, to belong, to connect, and to commit yourself to. They go by various names. They go by house fellowships. They go by Bible study groups. They go by the name Jumuias, Zones, or Ushirika. Cell groups are basic building blocks of a healthy church. They are treatment for the prevalent virus called individualism. As wise men said, Allah, you can give me Proverbs chapter 18 verse 1. Individualism, Proverbs 18 verse 1. Allah, are you with us? Okay. If he is not there, can you just go to Proverbs chapter 18 verse 1? And there it reads. Once when we were going to the place, Proverbs 18, an unfavoring man pursues selfish ends. He defies all sound judgment. So, cell groups gives us an opportunity not to be individual. And today people are suffering from individualism, even in the church. The kind of Christians who say, I go to church on Sunday, I go to worship God, give my offering, receive the sacrament, and walk away. They don't want even to know their neighbors who are sitting close to them. They don't want to engage them in any challenge of life or any victory in life. They are suffering from individualism. When you read the Acts of Apostles chapter 16, you realize that in verse 13, there is this lady called Lydia of Philippi, a believer in Jesus. She was alone in Philippi at the time Paul was going for his missionary trip. She was alone amongst the patrons of businessmen, great businessmen who were running the town of Philippi with their economic prowess. She was in that castle because of her ability, but she was the only believer. So when Paul visited this place and Silas and preached the word of God, this lady opened her heart and received the gospel. And when she received the gospel, she invited Silas and Peter to her place. And these are her words. If you agree that I am a true believer in the Lord, she said, come and stay in my house. I love her strategy. Come and stay in my house. And she urged us until we agreed, Paul said. I think the best word there could be also, she persuaded us until we agreed. You know, Provost, I also think that we servants of God could be having a problem because nowadays people don't want us close to them. I think we need a double church. But here is Lydia, who is persuading servants of God to come to her place. You know, by servants of God coming to Lydia's place, it's like he's using a strategy also to convince people who are around her to know that she's a faithful believer. The business partners I know will be invited, the neighbors will be invited, and then they'll be told, come and see the servant of God has come to this town. That is what zonal fellowship does for us. Individualism kills the church and community at large. I'll push it further and say this. The Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea share water from Jordan River. One sea is dead and the other one is alive. Cell group makes you alive as you allow yourself to learn and to follow what teachings or whichever teachings that you receive from the church. So when we come together in zonal fellowship, as Lydia did, we are getting an opportunity of learning and growing together. So what is the impact of zone or cells? I'll use those words interchangeably so that you may pick it from your perspective if you want to wear zone, Bible study groups or whatever. what is the impact of these zones. For the cathedral, it is a place where different personalities interact and pray together and for one another, comforting and share in each other's situation. The book of Acts tells us that believers were taught in the temple, but also in homes. And points out three things that happens in cell groups. So can we go to Acts chapter 2, verse 42? Because I want to really share deeply about zones and how we can grow in Christ in zones. And at the end, I want to encourage you to belong. Chapter 2 of Acts, verse 42. All the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and sharing in meal, including the Lord's Supper. In their homes, meals and the Lord's Supper. And to pray. A deep sense of awe came over them all, and the apostles performed many miracles, signs, and wonders. And all the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. They sold their property and possession and shared the money with those in need. They worshiped together at the temple each day and met in their homes for the Lord's Supper and shared their meal with great joy and generosity. I know this is the biggest challenge of zonal fellowship. Because maybe my house is small. Amen. Bwana asifiwe. Maybe sina vikombe ya kutosha. Bwana asifiwe. Maybe sina viti. Maybe. I'm using maybe. But the real thing here is not what you have. The real thing here is what you don't have. Because in sharing, God is found. Bwana asifiwe. I may not have enough cups for 100 people who will come for the fellowship in my house. And my sister is my neighbor. But she doesn't go in any church. But when I go for cups in her house, it will give me an opportunity of sharing my faith with her, because I'll be asking her for cups. And the next question, wageni wanatoka wapi? Alafu nasema, karibu, wageni wanatoka kanisani mwangu, penye ninashiriki. Na pia hata na wewe, ukipata nafasi, kuja. Then your neighbor will also understand that, oh, she's going to church. Then I must have been having a good neighbor. It gives you a platform. Because you may be having the word of God, but she is having cups. Your neighbor may be having all these things in this world, but they don't have your Christ that you have. When you lack something, maybe God is using it as a strength to go out and share the gospel, because you don't have what He has given the other person. Because we have people here, they've been in St. Matthew's for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, hawako kwa zone. Bwana asifiwe. Hata kama yeye ni aman na men's fellowship imeitwa, understand if he is a man. Hata kama yeye ni lady na ladies fellowship imeitishwa, aelewi ya kwamba yeye ni lady. They don't understand whether they are youth or elderly. So hata youth ikiitwa pia hapo Sunday school ikitwala pia hayuko. Kesha ikikuwa anasema hiyo si kipawa changu. Yeye hayuko kila mahali. Na hapa ni mtu wa St. Matthew's Cathedral muaminifu sana. Ikifika saa ya Holy Communion wanakuwa wanaimba, anakuja aste na miguu zake na hatua zake ni kama zimepigwa na rula, na bila anakuja na nielekea vizuri sana na kusema promo, sasa nimekuja jinsi nilivyo. Nimekuja na individualism yangu yote, na nikishapokea hii sakramenti na nikapenda sadaka zangu, ninatoka bila kuongelesha mtu yoyote. Sitaki kujua jina la mtu, sitaki kujua natoka wapi, sitaki kujua naishi wapi, sitaki kujua shida yake ni nini na baraka zake ni nini. Mimi kazi yangu ni kushiriki, kutoa sadaka na chup nimeleft. Christianity can only grow when people fellowship together. What you don't have, God has given you to be in that situation so that I can be a blessing to you. What you have it so that you can be a blessing to me, because God did not give it to me. In sharing, we grow as a community of believers. Good American, can you say amen? Kama mtikani yako haifu kumwambia wewe kujenga zone fellowship, wacha kukaa hivi. Ujue wewe mwenye ukuti zone fellowship wewe unaturudisha nyuma hii cathedral. The vision of the provost, he cannot achieve that. Because when we have disengaged ourselves, we don't have the bargaining power as Christians. Politically, we don't have the bargaining power. Socially, we don't have the bargaining power. Economically, we don't have the bargaining power. And that's why the more we disengage ourselves, the church has been the platform where even the world says that the church accepts corruption. We don't have a voice. We've disengaged. We don't speak in one voice. Incarnational ministry, showing Christ where you are. Lydia did it strategically, skillfully, and she seized the opportunity. You have many opportunities. Have you seized those opportunities and used them well for the growth of the kingdom of God? Why zone fellowship? I talk about zone fellowship or cell groups because in these groups there is spiritual growth and maturity. Spiritual growth and maturity. We can discuss the Bible, we can teach, we fellowship together, we pray. The fellowship helps you to apply the Bible to your every area of life. When you want to know a dead church is a church where people don't fellowship together. You are able to grow into a Christian who is also a doctor, a Christian who is also a lawyer, a Christian who is also a businessman, a Christian who is also able to understand political space and what is happening, rather than being a professional who is a Christian. You are able to have that mosaic mix of giftings within you because you are learning from one another. Cell group encourages more learning, cultivating leadership skills, and exercising ministry gifts to each other. And this was what motivated Lydia. And he told these people, come to my house. Number two, relationships are built. In cell groups, there is sharing, praying, and getting to know each other as unique individuals. We are different. You must accept that. I can't be like you. I can't preach like Provost. He was my teacher. But I can't follow into his footsteps directly because we are different. How I do it is not the same way that he does it. We are different. We must accept that we are unique. The way you perceive things is not the way I perceive. Don't think that because I've not done it your way, you are right and I am wrong. We are just different. So in cell groups, there is sharing and building up of relationship, and as unique as we are able to be in unity, in joy and gladness, and people are found and are encouraged to be one. So we are able to build relationships that establishes accountability, even in simplicity or complexity. I may be simple, I may be lacking, I may be not having enough. But when we are together, I am because you are, and you are because I am. And that is what we can make us to be. A Christian community. So fellowship helps us to remove the masks and thus allowing us to heal and healing to take place. There is mentoring and transmission of values when it comes to zones and cell groups. There is mentoring and transmission of values. To this point, I think Lydia must have been an Anglican. Amen? This Lydia must have been an Anglican. I think so. Because she was very strategic. Proverbs chapter 27 verse 17, Alan. There is mentoring and transmission of values. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens one another. Where is your sharp area so that you can sharpen me too? Come to the fellowship. Don't be selfish with God, what God has given you. If you see people who don't go to fellowship, they are selfish of the gifts that God has placed in them. Go there and share what God has placed in you. In fellowships, there is the meeting of needs, touching somebody else. Look at what James chapter 2 verse 14 to 17 says. James chapter 2, there is the meeting of needs. There is the meeting of needs. I belong to a fellowship, the Tukuten is a fellowship provost. And that time when I declared that I want to get married, brethren were sent to come and see if I'm really qualified to get married. So there are two brothers who came and visited me. We came together and we had a fellowship over a cup of tea in the evening. And you know, when brethren came to my house, that house is no longer mine. Because we are believers, it is our house. So anybody can go to the kitchen and make tea and set the table. And you know, I was staying in a very small room. The bed almost filled the room. So it was a 10 by 10. When I stretch my hand this side, I can touch the wall of both sides. And they came for an overnight fellowship. And it is a requirement, so I have to say yes. Because I wanted to marry. So when they came, we made tea, we fellowship together, and there was this wise Mzee who now was trying to find out if this room will be enough for 2 people. And I told them that if at all there is love, it will be enough. I trust God. And one thing I love with the brethren is that they also try to find out if the things that you have are really yours. So that when their sister in the Lord is coming to their house, the owner of the bed should not come and take the bed and leave you without a bed. Or the owner of the blanket, so that they can provide for it. It is a gesture of love and taking responsibility. So I was asking, is this mattress yours? Yes. This bed, is it, you bought it? Yes. This stool? Yes. Do you owe bank any loan? No. Oh, okay. How can we help you in this? No, I just need a wife. But surprisingly, when these two brethren came, they went back with a good message to my big brethren, the bigger group. And when they were giving gifts during my wedding day, they were giving gifts with a view of what they saw was needful in the house. Is that not wisdom? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, fellowship is important. That is wisdom. I got an extra blanket. I got a bigger sufuria. I was using a jiko. I got a meko that I'm using till today. And by the time the wedding was ending, the room was not enough for the things that they brought so that we may share with our sister. That is my wife. So, genuine Christians see and meet the needs of others. You need to taste and see the joy of giving without expecting anything in return. Some of us, we give expecting so much in return. We just need to give without expecting anything in return. So by inviting people and showing the gesture of hospitality as Lydia did, that one is gospel enough. You don't have to say so much. Just offer a gesture of hospitality, a gesture of concern, a gesture of love, a gesture of just wanting to know, how are you faring on? How can I be of help to you? Even when you know that there's nothing you can help. Just find out, how can I help you? How can I pray for you? That is how we can grow. Number 3, causing growth in the church. Remember, Silas and Peter, when they were in prison, it was about praise, worship. Was noticed in prison and even in homes where they visited. In the early church, this attracted others. It is a place to share what God has done for you. A safe place for you, for young believers to be discipled, to grow. If you are a young believer, Zone Fellowship is the best place for you. It is a safe place to invite your unbelieving friends to, and a place where you learn to share faith. The profit of cell group is very, very unlimited. What excites me in this chapter is this: that after Paul was taken to prison for praying for a lady, and after they have worshipped God, fellowship with the prisoners were saying, these are servants of God. These are servants of God. And you see, the movement of baptism and convicting people to come to the kingdom of God was something that is seen each and every time, and where Paul visited. And this is where the Philippian church was born through Lydia. It began in the house. So may the Lord bless us, that we can open our hearts and open our houses for fellowship. This part excites me. When Paul and Silas left prison, they returned to the home of Lydia. There, they met with the believers and encouraged them once more. Then they left the town. Now, Lydia was not alone. These guys were in prison, but the number of believers increased. Anytime that people come for a zone fellowship at your place, remember, even if they are coming in numbers, even parking their cars around your place, even asking for your neighbor an assistance, even welcoming your neighbor to come for the fellowship, already you've shared the gospel. Amen. Bwana asifiwe. Bado mnanipenda kamili. Lakini si lazima, hebu nione kwa mkono. Si lazima lakini sawa. So as I finish, brethren, you need to belong to one fellowship. You must say yes. You must say yes to a fellowship. Kama hujawahi kwa fellowship group, leo sisemi ati watu wakoke waende mbinguni, hatuendi saa hii. Hatuendi saa hizi, bado tunataka tuingie kwa fellowships. Bwana asifiwe. Na tushiriki neno la Mungu na tuombe, na pia chai ni lazima. Bwana asifiwe wapendwa. Bwana asifiwe. Tukikuja wapendwa pia tengeneza tu chai. Because promo sasa kuja na Holy Communion. Hiyo chai itakuwa Holy Communion. So open your hearts, open your houses. Why should you do this? And why are people fearing to be in zones? Let me give you some few things why people don't like zones and fellowships. One, they fear being known and exposed to the crowd. They seem safer with the crowd. Wanataka kupotelea ndani ya watu. Hawataki kujulikana. Religion is more to its own sake, find safety in the crowd, but Christianity blossoms in fellowship where masks are removed. So we must go to the fellowships and remove these masks. Number two, why people fear fellowship? They don't like to be accountable to anyone. They don't like. They just want to be free. They are too cautious of their social class and do not want to mix with ordinary people. Wewe ni mtu wa social class, utaki kutana na watu, unasema sisi ndio wale wasee. Sisi ndio wale wanatusemanga. You know? Mimi ndio yule mwalimu alipata award. You know, mimi ndio yule professor. You know, mimi ndio yule daktari. You know, mimi ndio yule mhubiri. You know, mimi ndio yule mwimbaji. You know, mimi ndio yule anaendeshanga gari latest number plate. You know? Social class. The ground at the throne of God is level. Try it and it is just level. Haijui professor, haijui daktari, haijui mwalimu, haijui mchungaji, haijui mwanakwaya, haijui ibada. Sisi tu ni watoto wa Mungu ambao wanaokolewa kwa neema ya Mwenyezi Mungu. Period. Nabidi jirani yako acha kutisha watu. Unatutishia nini? Don't threaten us. Another thing is they have no time. They have no time. Wanajifanya very busy. They have no time. Wako busy. You only get time for what is worth. Lydia left her business for a fellowship that is worth, and he kept inviting servants of God to her house for fellowship and breaking of bread. And through that, the church, the Philippian church, was born. The Philippian church was planted. If you enjoy reading the book of Philippians, thank God for Lydia. And you can be the Lydia of our century. In the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.